morning and welcome back to the lecture series on performative gender and religions in South Asia. So, this is our last lecture from this module, Bhakti, Mysticism and Poetics. Today we are going to discuss the poems by two, one could say, rebellious female Bhakti poets, one being Mirabai, the other is Akka Mahadevi, who etched their own alternative figure within the larger Bhakti movement through gender subversion and unconventional understanding and performance of gender that is reflected in their poetic works. And later in this lecture, we are also going to look at a few song lyrics composed by Rabindranath Tagore, where the Bhakti movement's reflection is very prominently available. How Tagore was inspired by the Bhakti movement is something we are going to look at very briefly. So, talking about Mirabai, Mirabai's songs about Krishna are rich in devotional feelings, and they are markedly different from the songs of Surdas and Tulsidas in a number of ways. This is primarily because Mirabai was a female poet who accepted Lord Krishna as her husband and her true lover. Mirabai's poems can be classified roughly into the following categories: poems of salutation, poems of love for Krishna, poems of dissatisfaction with the world and worldly affairs, including her social relationship with Radha, the man she was married to, and fourth, the poems of separation, where she is longing to be unified with Krishna. There are also some poems on Braj. They describe the milieu, the general cosmos of Braj. There are poems on Krishna's childhood and his flute or murali, and also on stealing the garments of the milkmaids or gopi. However, Mira's most powerful poems are those in which she is accepting Krishna as her husband and describes her loving devotion towards him. In these poems, Mirabai shows the full depths of her heart and her passion, as well as her singleness of mind. The poems of Mirabai are also musically rich in character, and like other padas or verses composed during the Bhakti period, they are associated with melodies or ragas to which they could be sung. Just like we see that Kabir's verses and Nanak's verses can be sung as bhajans, similarly Mirabai's verses can also be put to music and sung. Mirabai loves Krishna, who is in the fullness of youth. He is the epitome of youth, and he wears a peacock crown. His earrings are kind of resplendent. In his ears, a garland of jasmine flower decks his neck and bust. There is a yellow garment on his body, and he has flute at his lips. So he is the embodiment of the transcendental Rasika, the beautiful human god that is meant to be loved, that is seeking the devotee's love. So this is how Mirabai's poem goes. This is one of the poems by Mirabai, and the following are the lines. Live in my eyes, Nandalal, your peacock crown and fish-shaped earrings and the red tilak on your forehead are beautiful. Your figure is charming, your face is dark, and your eyes are large. At your nectar lips there is a flute, and a garland of jasmine adorns your chest. Mirabai says the Lord is a giver of joy to the pious and the protector of the poor. So in the end, we see the Bhanita, where Mirabai's signature is present at the end of the poem. Mirabai's Krishna is an incarnation of God who saved his bhaktas through different avatars and set them free from the bondage of the material world. Here we see that her Krishna had we see that Krishna had saved Prahlad as Hiranyakashipu and Dhruva as Hari. So different forms of Vishnu. As Hiranyakashipu, he saves Prahlad, and as Hari, he saves Dhruva. And then he lifts up the mountain Govardhan, right? He saved the honor of Draupadi as her friend, and then he gave redemption to Ajamil and Kubja. So these are the different avatars of Krishna that are celebrated through Mira's verses or padas. Mirabai calls Krishna by very many names. He calls him Natavar, or the great dancer, the Mohan, or attractive, Girdhar, the one who lifted the mountain, and someone who is yet ultimately a yogi. So in spite of the fact that Mirabai describes Krishna in human form, she imagines Krishna as a human form, she never loses sight of the fact that he is eternal and transcendental. He is more than the human form. He is the Lord himself. In many places, Mirabai in fact calls him as Avinashi, or the Eternal One. He dwells in everyone's heart, and so Mira would say, "Oh, Antaryami, come to me soon. I cannot live without you." And again, Mira says, "The pain of my love cannot be cured unless the real physician comes. The physician lives in my heart, and only he knows the cure." The personal Krishna has become impersonal here. Mira also identifies Krishna with Rama. She says that without Ramaya, referring to Ram, I cannot sleep. Sleep does not come, and the fire of separation consumes me. Ramaya, I love you. Don't break off my love. Please love me more and more. Ram, I am dedicated to you. Please pass by my street. I am restless when I don't see you. O heart, drink the delights of Ram. Drink the delights of Ram. Shun evil and sit in the presence of the holy men, listening to the tales of Hari. Put lust, anger, arrogance, greed, and selfishness out of your thoughts. Mira's Lord is Giridhar. She is drenched with his color. This notion of being drenched or being colored by the essence of one's Lord's, color, this notion, this concept of being doused or being colored by the same hues that one's Lord wears is also available later in Sufi lyrics. I mean, once again, going back to the song Chhap Tilak Sab Chini, Apne se rang dini re mose naina milai ke, right? So this concept of my own picture being subsumed, being submerged by the larger picture of the transcendental, my own color disappearing and losing its character when it merges with the transcendental color. This comes back again and again in Mirabai as well as other, Bhakti saints' poems, and ultimately it also echoes in a number of Sufi poems, Sufi lyrics that celebrate the Murshid-Murid relationship. Mirabai loved Krishna as her husband. Her Bhakti is therefore called dampatya or conjugal love. She calls her bhakti and her love as the path of loving devotion, prem bhakti. Yogi, don't go, don't go. I touch your feet, I am your servant. The path of loving devotion or prem bhakti is unparalleled. Show me that path. Mohan, I knew your love. I knew your love. My way is a way of loving devotion. I don't know anything else. Right? So we see in Mira, rather than the Shringar Rasa that informs the Radha Krishna love primarily, here we see a very beautiful manifestation of Dasya Bhav also. Mira constantly says that I am your servant. She is a lover but also a servant, completely in a servile position, subordinate to Krishna. And she is longing for Krishna but not in the same way as Radha. In her journey to unify with the transcendental, she is not alone. She is traveling for Krishna, but she says that I am traveling also with Krishna. I am never away from him. There is no longing, but because I am always with him. It's very paradoxical. She wants to be with him, but then she feels that her journey is not a lonely one because he is always already with her, helping her through her journey, helping her through her sojourn. Mirabai refers to Krishna through so many different endearing names such as Pritam, Piya, Dulha, Sajan, Saya, Balam, Kant, and so on, all of which mean or refer to him as her husband. Mirabai also uses the traditional imagery of moon and chakor, the chand and chakor bird, as well as lamp and moth, water and fish in order to express her powerful, feeling of love towards Krishna. Some of these metaphors are very much available in Sufi songs also. The metaphor of Gul and Bulbul is, constantly used and available in Sufi poetry. Similarly, Shama, Parwana, the lamp or light and the moth is very much available and part of the Sufi repertoire. The moon, the lamp, and the water are supposed to be the lover, Krishna himself, whereas the chakor, the moth, and the water are described as the loved one in the Indian literature. Mirabai also says that the love between Krishna and herself was not something new but existed from time immemorial. She says that it is an eternal love which goes on between herself and Krishna, and that even in their previous lives they were lovers. Mirabai says continually that she is the servant of Krishna's lotus feet. So she somehow does not enjoy or does not even want to enjoy the position of an equal partner that Radha in a way is. She is never shown in any imagination as sitting on the same pedestal as Krishna. Her love emerges mainly as a devotee. So she is always shown in any artistic depiction of Krishna and Mirabai sitting at the feet and worshipping Krishna. Although he is a husband, she sees herself as a servile, a wife in a servile position, a wife that is happy, act as a loving servant. So the dasya bhav, the servile love or feeling is predominant over here. She's never sitting on the same platform as Krishna. This is the kind of bhakti which was preached in the Narad Bhakti Sutra which is a work of unknown date, but definitely earlier than Kabir as well as Mirabai. This kind of bhakti, the bhakti as a servant, is available in Narada Bhakti Sutra. Next, we are going to talk about the works by Akka Mahadevi. We have already talked a little about this rebellious female bhakti saint poet. Akka Mahadevi is regarded as a star of the first magnitude, someone who successfully demonstrated in her lifetime the religious principle Saranasati Lingapati, which means, so according to this principle, a devotee holds her God as her lord or husband. So in her case, her god Chennamallikarjun, her Shiva is her husband. So very similar to Mirabai, Akka Mahadevi gave up the riches and the comforts of worldly life, and she became a wandering devotee of God Chennamallikarjun or Shiva, and spent the rest of her life as an ascetic, as a saint and hermit in the Sri Shailam mountains, and where she is said to have realized her ultimate goal. Now, Akka Mahadevi's religious experience is seen in her Vachanas, which literally means sayings. She belongs to the Veer Shaiva school, which is known for writing Vachanas, and Vachanas literally means sayings, sayings in rhythmic prose, which serve the same purpose as poetry. So, Vachanas, like I said, were widely used by the devotees of the Veer Shaiva sect and formed their unique contribution to the Kannada literature. The Veer Shaiva sect emerged in Karnataka, right? So, Akka Mahadevi has to her credit more than 315 vachanas that convey her intense feeling, deep insight, and profound mystical experiences through rich imageries. It is said that Akka Mahadevi displayed her religious inclination even as she was a little girl. There is a popular legend that Rudra Kanika, who was of the order of Parashiva, had taken birth in the form of Akka Mahadevi. So, Akka Mahadevi in her previous life was Rudra Kanika, who belonged to the order of Parashiva. As Akka Mahadevi grew older, her piety and devotion towards Chennamallikarjuna grew stronger. Even when she reached the age of 16, she remained unmarried, which was a rare practice in her times. The reason was that she firmly believed that she was married already to Chennamallikarjun, and she says this in one of her vachanas: I have fallen in love, O mother, with the beautiful one, who knows no death, knows no decay, and has no form. I have fallen in love, O mother, with the beautiful one, who knows no birth and knows no fear. I have fallen in love with the beautiful one, who is without family, without any country, and without any peer. Chennamallikarjuna, the beautiful, is my husband. However, Akka Mahadevi could not avoid marriage for too long. According to a legend, when King Kaushik was returning from the hunt, he saw her and he fell in love with her. He wanted to marry her. When the royal proposal was brought to her parents, they could not reject it for too long for fear of, punishment. Because if they rejected the royal proposal, it could endanger their own lives. However, Akka herself had rejected this proposal. She did not want to get married. Akka Mahadevi agreed to marry the king, but on conditions that are detailed in one of her vachanas. It goes as follows: I shall engage in the worship of Shiva as I like it. I shall spend my time in the company of Maheshwaras as I like it. I shall be with the prince as I like. I shall forgive only 3 violations of these conditions. So life continued on this note, but not for long. Her Vachanas are witnesses, or they are testimonies of her anguish as well as her anger, her frustration at being compelled, being forced to fit between devotion to God, the spiritual life, and engagement with a husband or the worldly life. In one of her vachanas, Akka Mahadevi expresses her desperation. O Lord, listen to me if you will, listen not if you will not. I cannot rest contented unless I sing of you. So, this is a kind of being torn between two different worlds, the worldly affairs and the spiritual calling that she could discover within herself. O Lord, accept me if you will, accept not if you will not. I cannot rest contented unless I hold you in my arms. O Lord, look at me if you will, look not if you will not. I cannot rest contented unless I gaze at you in overpowering longing. O Lord Chennamallikarjuna, I worship you and revel in the thrill of pleasure. One of Akka Mahadevi's last vachanas reveals that she, at long last, and after a lot of spiritual travel and penance, a long spiritual journey, had the supreme vision. She attained the supreme vision, the vision of her Lord Chennamallikarjuna. It is widely held in Karnataka that through this experience, Akka ultimately realized her ultimate goal. The following vachana, with its rich characteristic imagery, describes Akka Mahadevi's profound experience. I have seen him in his divine form, him with the matted locks, him with the jeweled crown, him with the gleaming teeth, him with the smiling face, him who illumines the 14 worlds with the light of his eyes. I have seen him, and the thirst of my eyes is quenched. I have seen the great Lord, whom men among men serve but as wives. I have seen the supreme Guru, Chennamallikarjuna, sporting with the primeval Sakti, and saved am I. This is one of her last vachanas, where she is describing her vision, where she has witnessed, Shiva and Shakti involved in some kind of amorous play, amorous game or lila, and saved am I. So that has, saved her from the cycle of birth and death. Presumably, she has attained salvation after this vision. Next, from Akka Mahadevi, I would, come to the modern times and take up one of the modern poets, a more contemporary poet. It's a leap from the medieval time into the modern times, just to understand how the impact of a powerful movement such as the Bhakti movement lingers through years, through centuries, through decades, and it reverberates, it echoes even in much later works. In the modern times, Rabindranath Tagore is one poet that was greatly influenced by the Bhakti tradition, especially the style of singing by the bauls or the wandering minstrels from Bengal. Tagore deploys the long lost mystic traditions of the bauls in his artworks, in his lyrics, while exploring the question of divinity or God. So, Rabindranath Tagore was a believer in the essential unity of man and the eternal universe. In Gitanjali, his realization, his exploration of this mysticism is found again and again. There is an element of mysticism available in his lyrics, especially when we look at the Puja Paryay songs, the Puja category songs composed by Tagore. These songs are devotional hymns of a dedicated soul whose ultimate aim is the realization of the divine. He calls the body as the Sima. So within the Shima or the limit, the Ashim or the limitless can be discovered. In his voyage through life, Tagore realizes divinity amidst mundane or the ordinary, and he grasps the infinite in the midst of the finite, like I was just telling. So the following lyrics by Tagore is influenced by the baul tradition in Bengal. In Bengali, it goes as follows, and then I'm going to read out the translation in English. The song is influenced deeply by the baul tradition, the wandering minstrels of Bengal, the mystics of Bengal. আমার প্রাণের মানুষ আছে প্রাণে, তাই হেরিতায় সকল খানে, আছে সে নয়ন তারায় আলোক ধারায়, তাই না হারায়, ওগো তাই দেখি তাই যেথায় সেথায়, তাকাই আমি যেদিক পানে. So when translated to English, it means my innermost one resides within me, and he seems omnipresent. Hence, he rests within my eyes. I need not search him at all elsewhere. Whichever direction I look at, he seems within sight, hence, right? So, to search for God, I don't have to go elsewhere. He resides, my moner manush, the man of my heart, the person of my heart, the innermost being resides inside me. He is everywhere, and yet he is also inside me. I need not look elsewhere. An introspection, an inner journey could enable me to discover the God that is present in me. Further, deeply inspired by the Bhakti tradition, Tagore writes the following lines. I'll read them first in vernacular and then the translation. তাই তোমার আনন্দ আমার পর, তুমি তাই এসেছো নিচে, আমায় নইলে ত্রিভুবনেশ্বর, তোমার প্রেম হতো যে মিছে, আমায় নিয়ে মেলেছো এই মেলা, আমার হিয়ায় চলছে রসের খেলা, মোর জীবনে বিচিত্র রূপ ধরে তোমার ইচ্ছা তরঙ্গেছে. Translated to English, this is your happiness within me, therefore have you come down to me, rather come down to meet me. Without me, O Lord of three worlds, futile would be your love. In me, a display of your wares, a play of emotions. In me, taking varied forms in my life, ripples and rolls your own desire. So you are, manifesting your desire through me. Tagore has also artistically treated Mahabharat Upakhyans as well as the Radha Krishna love repertoire through his well-known dance dramas. So he has produced some great dance dramas that experiment with, that rework some of the well-known upakhyans from the primary epics. One such work is Chitrangada. The other is Bhanusimha Thakurer Padavali. So Bhanusimha Thakurer Padavali, the songs of Bhanusimha Thakur, is a collection of Vaishnav lyrics that were composed in Brajbuli by Rabindranath Tagore at the tender age of 16, only at the age of 16. As a teenager, he composed such a masterpiece. Bhanusimha Thakurer Padavali celebrates the Radha Krishna folklore with a predominant emphasis on Vipralambha or love in separation, where the Naika, heroine Radha, is eagerly waiting for Shyam to arrive, her emotions dwindling or fluctuating between hope and hopelessness. Tagore follows the Bhanita style of Kabir, Nanak and Mirabai, and he writes the lyrics of uh, Bhanusimha Thakurer Padavali or Bhanusimha Padavali under the pseudonym of Bhanusimha. He is Bhanusingha, right? The following song from Bhanusingha Padavali is an ode to Radha. In the original language, Braj Buli, it goes as follows. Sajani Sajani Radhikalo, Dekha Abahu Chahiya, Mridula Gamana Shyam Ave, Mridula Gan Gahiya. पिनह झटित कुसुम हार पिनह नील आंगिया सुंदरी सिंदूर देके सींथी करह रांगिया. And then I'm going to skip a few lines because it's rather a long song. I insist that my audience goes through this song and the other songs in Bhanusingha Padavali. They are beautiful. They're beautifully describing the Vipralambha, this separation between Radha and Krishna, you know. Then it goes, Sajani ab ujar mandir kanak deep jaliya surabhi karaha kunja bhavana gandha salil dhaliya. And the ending lines, Trishit nayan bhanu singha kunja pathame chahiya mridula gamana shyam ave mridula gan gahiya. When translated to English, this ode to Radha reads as follows. Radhika, O Radhika, dear my friend, look now, lo, comes Shyam with gentle gait, gentle song so. Make haste, this garland, this blue veil don. O great beauty, Sindoor, do you now put on? Color your Sinthi, referring to the hair, parting with red, blood red. This lonely grove, brilliant with lamps of gold, perfume, friends with spray of scents. And in the end, it says, with eyes athirst does Bhanusimha look and say, lo, comes Shyam with gentle gait, gentle song so. With this ode to Radha, I am going to conclude our lecture here, and also this module comes to an end. I'll meet you with a new module and a new set of discussions in our forthcoming lectures. Thank you.